Alright, what's going on, guys and gals? I figured I'd make a quick video here. Get the door open so it's not squeaking. Got a little 1776 build going here in the stand. Got the crank here. Just got it back from the machine shop. Had that baby turned. And got our case over here. And we're going to be putting that together. That's going to be a little grenade 1776 or 1835. I haven't decided yet. Gonna get some of the China piston cylinders for those. Nobody likes buying the SEMAs. They're about 400 bucks now. So we're gonna get some of those, try those out. Some of the A&As on this. We got a decent set of heads that I originally was gonna put on the 2110. But I told you guys I was gonna go buy some new heads for that. And I got those today. Here's the heads for the 2110. The CB Performance wedge ports. And pretty nice set of heads. They have the smaller spark plug in them, and they have the torque boxes here, keep the head from collapsing, and they have a pretty serious port there. So these should run pretty good. They have the double springs, chromoly retainers, and we'll check those out, put them over in the drill press and see what kind of lift we got. These heads go for about 800 bucks right out of the box, so it's a pretty good bang for the buck. You know, you're getting a new cylinder head, and they make pretty good power. So I thought that'd be a good choice. Got a few more things to do on this. We'll decide what cam we can use once we check the coil bind situation, see how much valve lift we can achieve with these springs. And I had one of my regular listeners ask me about a Super 1600. He wanted a parts list for the 1600. It's in the blue car. And Ken, the guy with the case that we just inserted in the crank that I just got ready here. Boop ba doop ba doop. Here's his crank. Got it all cleaned up, sandblasted, and polished. It's ready to go too now. We're building Super 1600 out of this stuff. So I'll make you a parts list as we buy it, and I'll even get the prices for you and all that good stuff. And the heads are sort of the important part on the Super 1600. You know, we do the single valve spring, the HP single valve spring, the aftermarket retainer for a little extra valve lift, and then we do the port work. You know, relieve the bowls and do some port work in the exhaust and in the intake. And the combination of stuff between the cam and the head work is what gives you the extra power. So that's what's going on with that. We'll get that going for sure. I had somebody else ask me, had a question about a Type 3 square back, or it was a fast back. It was both sort of the same. They had an exhaust smell coming in the car, and they had already checked a couple things and couldn't find an exhaust leak. So we'll go out here to the boneyard and take a look at the one square back that I have here and see if I can give you a few pointers. I'll just left his door open there on his Mustang. Anyway, here's a square back. Slide by here. So sometimes when you get exhaust in these, obviously, you know, there's a gasket right here in the lid. You want to make sure your lid gasket's in good shape, and that'll seal any fumes coming from the engine compartment into the car. And if you've done all that already, sometimes what happens if you have an exhaust leak, it can get sucked into the bellows and then go into the fresh air tubes and enter the heater channels that way. You can try blocking the ducts off on your fan housing and see if that stops the gas smell from coming in the car. That'll let you know if it's sucking it into the boot, the bellows boot here, and getting it in through the heater system, through the heater boxes, or through the, you know, the heater of the car going into the heater channels. As far as gas smell, it could be also be fat. You could have too much idle jet, you know, you could just be idling real rich. Without seeing the car, it's really hard to tell. You want to just make sure that, you know, those gaskets are in good shape. Your lid gasket and this bellows gasket's good too. This is pretty important to keep the exhaust out. This particular car has some holes in it that it's not supposed to have here. Normally these aren't in here. So this can suck some exhaust in here, and then it can get caught in the fan housing and then blow into the heater hoses. would be the only thing that I can think of. So you might want to check for raw fuel, make sure both your carburetors are good. Obviously, if it's running good, they're probably all right. So this car has a header on it, so it's not really that much help as far as looking at the exhaust. This one sort of has a quiet pack that routes out and comes out right here in a factory location. And yeah, so hopefully that helps you a little bit on the exhaust. More than likely it's getting into this part of the motor. It's getting sucked into the air bellows there and getting pumped into the car through the heater hoses. You can see how these are blocked off. They don't have the hoses on these. So normally those go down into the heater box, and then, you know, they go up into the car. So you can block those off, take the hoses up from under the car. If you don't have the heat hooked up, you can make sure that your heater hose locations going into the car, you might want to block those off with something to keep the fumes coming from in the car there, because that's an open hole, and that would be these things here, you know, coming in the car. That's an open hole there. So the other guy that had a question was the Iceman. He sort of got something like this going on. There you go. Epoxy primer and water make rust. The problem with leaving a car outside with primer on it is primer is much like a sponge. It's very very coarse and very absorbent. It's not a very good coating to leave on a car if you're going to be exposed to weather. You can see this car's doing fine anywhere that it's not making contact with water, but anywhere water's dripping in on the car, it's rusting pretty good right through the epoxy primer. So we didn't etch any of this, we just epoxied it, and a lot of times that's the one thing that you can do is you can etch it either with OSFO, you know, a metal etch. You can use primer etch like I use, but I would strip that thing all the way down and start over again. Of course, you're gonna have to 80 grit it down and then metal prep it with some OSFO or some sort of metal ready solution. And then I would go with some epoxy or etch primer, depending on what manufacturer you use. I'm sure you can find an epoxy primer. I think some of the PPG stuff doesn't require etch, but just check with your manufacturer on that. But yeah, so hopefully that helps you on that. I'd definitely start over with that. I don't know about putting spray balm on it. You know, that's just a temporary, and it's not going to stop any of that rust. If you wanted to just do something temporary and you didn't want to have to mess with the primer, you could just spray it down with some OSFO and then just cover it and not put primer on it at all, and then just take care of it when you get to it. And you just start the process like you know how to do, you know, go down the metal, etch it, prime it, and paint it. But that's one bad thing about primer if you're going to put the car in the weather. You know, they always used to say that epoxy was the best thing to put on a car if you're going to put it outside. It's more of a sealer. It's not quite as porous as the 2K primer is, but the 2K primer will wick. Whatever lands on it will wick to the steel. So you want to use a good epoxy, something that's a sealer, not a primer. And that's the difference between epoxy primer and a 2K primer. The epoxy is more suited for exposure to the weather than the primer is, other than the UV issue, which you won't have if the car's covered. But anyway, hope that helps you. And I wish I lived closer. I'd come pick one of those 510s up and do it up for you, put it together. And I miss those cars. So I tried to find one of those 510s for Hans, and I found one in Jacksonville that was a basket case for $5 grand, and that's just a little more than I want to spend for the initial investment, of course, you know. And then you have all the restoration costs on top of that, and the car is pretty rough. So cool car you got there, Bob. They're very rare, you know that. But hopefully you figure out something to do with that one. And I saw a lot of guys left comments on your page to point you in the right direction. And then I saw HPR made you a video too. I don't know if you caught that. HPR Auto. He's there in Canada. So anyway, let me go ahead and shut this off. And yeah, I think I'm going to take a break, get out of the heat. It's humid. I talked to people, a couple people on YouTube today. Talked to DJ. And there you go. DJ wanted to know about the humidity. It's up there about 78, 79%. Was a little higher earlier, and right about 90. So if you guys have one of these matrix thermometers, consider it gold. They don't make them anymore. They discontinued them. Apparently they weren't big sellers. Go figure. The guys in the garage really liked them, and I had no problem selling them, but apparently they didn't sell too good for the company. So they're discontinuing them. I got Andrea checking into maybe getting some made with the YouTube Garage logo on them, you know, maybe something like that. I don't know. I'm gonna try to do something like that, see if I can figure out who manufactures them and if I can get some made for the garage, because I know a lot of the guys still want to get them. I know Matthew 78 wanted to get one, and we weren't able to get one, and some other guy had paid for one and Andrew had to refund his money. So I checked with Michigan yesterday, and definitely they're discontinued and they don't have any more, so can't get those anymore. Go figure. But anyway, that's what's going on. We got the bomb in here and we're wet sanding it. I got it about wet sanded. Pretty much got to do the roof and under the hood, and I got a few runs to get out of that passenger side kick panel. And hopefully tonight I'll finish this up and start taping this tomorrow and get some color on it. I'm gonna squirt it one more time. I'm gonna clear the body, clear the whole body again, and we'll be off to the buffers. Once we get this done this time, it'll get set back on the chassis, and it'll go bye-bye. So 7 days is the goal. So that's coming up here real soon. Yeah, goes by pretty quick. And the chassis next. I got to get the chassis down from over there. Got to get the tranny painted and break the front end down and detail it, and then start bolting all the pieces back together. And hopefully that'll go pretty smooth. The main thing I want to do first is get the car painted, and then that'll give me a couple days. I figure about 3 or 4 days to buff it. Because that's usually what it takes me. I'm not a one-day buffer. You know, I can buff a hood or a panel or something like that, but an all over like this, the dashboard needs to be buffed, and the glove box has to be buffed, and you know, all the pieces have to be individually buffed and detailed and all that stuff. So I figure I'm giving it about 5 days for buffing it. So I need to get it painted here in the next day or two, and then that'll give me a week to buff it and detail and stuff like that and get it put back together. All right guys, let me shut this one down. Got a little 1776 build. I don't know if I told you that, or 1835. We're gonna be doing that one soon. And then I saw some inserts, but I don't know. I think this case might be cut for 96. 96 cylinders, not 94s. So I gotta measure that and see what's going on with that. But that's an old Autocraft case with the gussets all welded on there. I think I did a video on this one. So they've got those head stud holes drilled out to about 14 millimeter, I believe. Maybe a little smaller, but they're not 10s, maybe 12s. So I was gonna drill those out and put some inserts, but I got to get the thin wall ones. And I want to say thanks to the YouTuber that left me the part number for the thin wall inserts. Appreciate that. And I saw those down at Triangle. I was gonna pick some up today, and I just didn't get them. It was all spin out on these heads and the bearings for this other motor. So. All right, guys, I'll leave you with a little shot there of chaos. It was good to see Neil this morning. Got to see Neil, got to see Jeb Chance made a video. And it's good to see those guys, man. Miss the old YouTubers. Miss Milrich. I haven't seen him much since the baby. I'm sure he's really busy. Best wishes to him and his family. Hopefully he turns the record button on here soon. And thanks for all the videos, guys.